Good morning, students. This is Sridevi. In our previous sessions, we will discuss about some of the topics in Unit 2. In this video, we are going to learn remaining topics in Unit 2, and the topics are server management, call semantics, communication protocols, and client-server binding. First, let us see server management. What is a server management? The main definition of the server management is the process of monitoring and maintaining servers to operate at peak performances. And the server management also encompasses means it contains or it mainly whatever may be. It contains the management of hardware, software, security, and backups. And this distributed system, each server is controlled by its local database administrator, DBA. DBA means data administrator system. It uses specialized software to store and organize data. And each server cooperates to maintain the consistency of the global database. The workstations and the clients are connected to the database servers over the communication network. Okay. And the primary goals of an effective server management strategies are included minimize and hopefully eliminate server slowdowns and downtime. And it also included build secure server environments, ensure server continue to meet the needs of an organization. As it evolves, server management basics include management of the hardware, software, security, and backups. These are the components of server management. Let us see the components of a server management. First component is the hardware management. Already you know hardware management. Hardware means is a physical component of a computer such as electrical, electronic, and mechanical unit is known as a hardware of the computer. In this hardware management, performing well is the foundation of effective server management. Without reliable hardware, business productivity can be affected. So, it's important to continuously monitor at least 5 primary components. And these 5 primary components are CPU, hard drive, random access memory, CPU temperature, and operating environment. First one is the CPU. Already you know what is the CPU. CPU is the brain of computer. Okay. And the CPUs is the set of registers, arithmetical logical unit, and control unit, which together interrupt and execute instructions in assembly language. And the primary functions of CPU, it transfers instructions and input data from main memory to registers, that is internal memory. And the CPU executes the instructions in the stored sequence. And the CPU is fabricated as a single integrated circuit, that is IC is known as a microprocessor, and it controls all the internal and external devices and performs arithmetic and logical operations. These are the CPU. And the CPU running close to 100% utilization of an extended period is overtaxed, meaning there's no access capacity for users to perform additional tasks, risking everything depending on the server slowing to a crawl. Next one is the random access memory, RAM. RAM is also known as a read and write memory, as information can be read from and written onto it. Okay. And this form of temporary storage runs faster than permanent hard disks. It programs running from RAM will perform better given these speed advantages. In this RAM, however, the storage of data and instructions in RAM is temporarily. And the RAM contains two types, RAM, dynamic RAM, and SRAM, static RAM. Okay. Next one is the hard drive. Hard drive is nothing but hard disk. Okay. The hard disk can hold more information than the floppy disk, and the retrieval of information from hard disk is faster when compared to floppies or tapes. Next one is the CPU temperature. In this CPU temperature depends entirely on the CPU used. In generally, anything between 40 degrees centigrade to 65 degrees centigrade is considered as a safe heat range during a normal workload. If the CPU temperature gets too high, shut down the server immediately and access the problem. If a fan fails, the server can overheat and cause permanent damage. Make sure to monitor fan speeds to avoid temperature spikes. And next one is the operating environment. In addition to inside temperature of a server, you should also pay attention to the operating environment where the server is located. A server room must be kept on the proper temperature and humidity. It means with airflows maintained for peak server performances and reliability. And next one is the software management. What is this software management? In the software management, the computer perform operations like addition, subtraction, multiplication and divisions only. The user issues instructions and the CPU acts accordance with the instructions. The set of instructions which control the sequence of operations are known as programs. Just like hardware, server software needs monitoring and regular maintenance is the server management. And next component of the server management is security. Security is an important component to server management because it is maintaining a secure network. The secure policies can differ depending on the needs and industry type of the business. And the solutions included are installing and keeping up to date antivirus software, putting firewalls in place to keep out unauthorized traffic, using a password policy or access control software to only allow secured passwords and require users to regularly change them, encrypting sensitive data storage and external network connections, and to implementing SIEM tools and it analyzing and using security logging best practices to better understanding potential threat trends. Threat means bugs or errors or risk. These are the common server security solutions. And final component is the backups. Of course, while many tools are great at helping you manage backups for a single device or network, not all can perform well on a large scale. If you need to manage backups for different clients and workstations across multiple networks, you will need to different solutions to help ensure that your client's data is protected while also saving you as much time as possible. So, if you have managed server provider MSP, that is MSP, we are recommended checking out SolarWinds backup. These solutions makes it easy to manage backups for hundreds of clients if necessary and protect them errors, hacks and data loss. These are the main components of a server management. And next one is the call semantics. Here, call semantics. In our previous session, semantics means is the meaning of words, paragraphs, and sentence is called the semantics. In this session, explain about call semantics. Here, the call semantics means an instruction passed from caller system to calling system, which is executed in server system, is called the call semantics. Like that, when we want to execute an instruction from client side system to server side system. For that, when the client side system sends a message the receive side system, must be able to receive. To receive the instruction or message, the received system should be ready to receive the message from client-side system. Here the message passing may always not successful because the message we sent or traveled through different networks. Here either the network is failure or the message will send from caller, that is sender, to callee or receiver system. On that meantime, if the system may crash or the system is getting restarted automatically. The message transferred may fail to receive. For that, we set the timeout time in the calling system to resend it. Similarly, in RPC, the caller and caller process can be situated on different nodes. Nodes means networks. Similarly, if the server system sends a return message to the client system that it maintains acknowledgement, the process will be same. Caller message is lost or response message is lost. The caller node crashes and is restarted. That means in the whole process of message passing communication, failures may occur in both sides. That means either client side or server side. To avoid all the message losing during the transmission, we'll need to set the timeout mechanism in both sides. During this message transmission, there are so many situations may occur. For example, I supposed to send a message from the sender system to receiver system. When I am transferring it, if the receiver system may crashed, the network is failed. When the time of receive the messages, by that the message will not be received. By that the acknowledgement will not be received. Without any acknowledgement, the sender cannot send another message or instructions. For that, it is impossible to set the sender "I am waiting time" until the acknowledgement received from the receiver. So, we set the timeout mechanisms to avoid that waiting. By this, if the acknowledgement will not receive in this set time, the message will be retransmitted again. By all these the number of some messages will be received or the some messages will be received repeatedly from different nodes. In this, to avoid the problems, our way to handling the problems is called call semantics. In this, call semantics contains totally 5 types. They are maybe call semantics, last one's call semantics, last of many call semantics, at least once call semantics, and exactly once call semantics. First one is the maybe call semantics. This is the weakest semantic when compared to other semantics because in which a timeout mechanism is used that prevents the caller from waiting indefinitely from a response from the caller. And next one is the last one's call semantics. In this semantics, these are all the important points in last one's call semantics. These call semantics uses the idea of retransmitting the call message based on timeouts until the caller receives a response. And these last one semantics can be easily achieved only when two nodes are involved in the RPC. RPC means remote processor call. But it's tricky to implement if nested RPCs and cases by orphan calls. Next one is the lost of many call semantics. In this semantics neglects orphan calls. Unlike last one's call semantics, orphan call is one whose caller has expired during to node crash. To identify each cell, unique call identifiers are used which to neglect orphan calls. And next one is the at least once call semantics. In this semantics guarantees that the call is executed one or more times but does not specify which results are returned to the caller. It is implemented using timeout based retransmission without considering the orphan calls. And final one is the exactly once call semantics. This is the strongest and the most desirable call semantics because it eliminates the possibility of procedure being executed more than once, irrespectively the number of retransmitted calls is called the exactly once call semantics. These are the call semantic types. Okay. Next one, communication protocol. Communication protocol. Communication protocol means if we send a message from sender to the receiver system. Here the message sending means from the sender system to receiver system, that means the executing some particular process or transferring a process which is the remote location by some call. We already discussed that the calling functions which is in same other location is called remote procedure call, as well as the mechanism which is used to transfer the data in the remote location is called message passing. If we want to execute a procedure or a function, procedure means subroutine. Already we will discuss last class. Procedure means subroutine. If we want to execute a procedure or a function which is in a remote location, the data which is used or need to execute. The data is transferred which is essential to execute that process. It's impossible to transfer the data normally from the sender's address space. If the receiver address space, so we convert all the data into the message formats, because in the distributed systems the communication is always in the form of messages only. Okay, in RPC the most important one is communication protocols. Here the protocol is nothing but a small software which is used to communicate the data between two systems. In the process of calling the remote procedure call, there are three types of protocols. First one is the request protocol, and second one is the request reply protocol, and final one is the request reply acknowledgement reply protocol. First one is the request protocol. Request protocol is also called as R protocol. It is used in RPC. RPC stands for remote procedure call. It is an inter-process communication technique that is used for client-server based applications. When a called procedure has nothing to return as a result of execution and the requirements of client confirmation about the procedure execution is not needed. The client proceeds after the request message is sent as there is no reply message. In RPC, that uses the R protocol is known as asynchronous RPC, which helps to implement that combine performances of the client and server, because the client does not wait for a reply and server does not need to send a reply. This is the request protocol. And next one is the request reply protocol. This protocol is also known as RR protocol. RR means request reply protocol. It is useful for designing systems which involves simple RPCs. In a simple RPC, all the arguments and results fit in a single packet buffer, while the caller duration and intervals between calls are short. This type of protocol is based on the idea of using implement acknowledgement to eliminate explicit acknowledgement messages. And the RR protocol timeouts and retrieves techniques is used with RR protocol for failures handling. Exactly one semantics are supported by servers using reply cache while storage replies. This is the request reply protocol, and third one is the request reply acknowledgement reply protocol. This is the RRA protocol. RR protocol implements exactly one semantics which requires storage of a lot of information in the server Cache can lead to loss of replies that have not seen delivery. Look at the diagram. First RPC and next RPC. Two type of systems is there. First one is the client side system and next one is the server side system. First RPC, request message sends to server side message, and the process execution after reply message, that is the acknowledgement for the request message, same as next RPC. Next RPC request message sends to server side message and the acknowledgement from the reply of the previous RPC. Its process will be execution. After that, reply message acknowledgement for the request message to next RPC. And these protocol, to overcome the limitations, or RR protocol, that is RSA protocol, is used. In this client's acknowledgement, the receipt of reply messages and the server deletes information from its cache only after it receives an acknowledgements from client. This is the main point, request reply acknowledgement reply protocol. Sometimes the reply acknowledgement message may get lost. Therefore, RRA protocol needs a unique order message identifiers, and it keeps a track of acknowledgement series sent. This is the request reply acknowledgement protocol, and these are the communication protocols. Next topic is the client server binding. Client server binding is included as a part of Server Express for use in applications which do not require an extensive fault tolerant middleware solutions. In this client server binding is a simple, lightweight, remote procedure call mechanism for use with 30 clients or less that enables you to implement a client server architecture without having to worry about communication programs. And you should ensure that the capabilities and performances provided by client server binding are adequate for your business needs, in which is both easy to implement and extremely cost effective to deploy. In this, client server binding removes the requirement for you to include communication code in your application by providing two modules. That modules are MF client and MF server. In these generic modules, which is used to drive any application. The MF client module is called by a user written client program. For example, handle the user interface, while MF server calls a user written server program. For example, handle data access and business logic. And client server binding works. It works by having a non-dedicated copy of MF server running on the server tiers. The copy of MF server communicates with all the clients using an agreed server name. In this, MF server module can be run using its built-in defaults as its only function to receive requests from the client to establish or terminate any action. And the flow of information is explained below. The program files from the demonstrate application CS bind as are used as example client and server programs. The following points are the client server binding works. First one is the user written client program. It performs any application installation code. It prompts the user for the name of a file, checks the file exists, and then calls MF client. And the first time MF client is called, it reads configuration information from the configuration file. netxdem.cfg is the configuration file. And MF server receives the connection request, and it spawns a secondary server for each client. And this MF server sends the secondary server name MF server 01 back to MF client and terminate the conversation. The MF client connects the secondary server MF server 01. It passes parameters obtained from the configuration file, that is lnk param block. See the section the client server binding. In the MF server 01 returns control to MF client. In this MF client ensures contact has been established and returns control to the user written client program. And the client program opens file specified by the user, reads a record from it and calls MF client to pass the data via the linkage section. Okay. And the MF server 01 passes the data to the user server program, which creates a file and writes the record to it. This read, record or write record, read record or write record loop continues until the user written client program reaches end of a file. And this server responds by sending the name of the directory into which the file was copied. The client program displays the name of the file which has been created the server and calls MF client, and with link control flag sent to client ending and then terminates. And MF client passes the client ending parameter to MF server 01, which passes it to the user written server program, which terminates itself. And it informs the base server, that is MF server, that the secondary server MF server 01 has been terminated. How to use client server binding? To use the client server binding in your application, we need to create a configuration file to control the behavior of the MF client and MF server modules and the communication connection. The configuration file in ask text file contain parameters allowing you to specify information such as communication protocols to use. The name of the username to be called as MF server, and add to code to your client program to call the MF client module. Add code to your server program to enable it to be called by the MF server module. These are the uses of client server binding. Thank you.